Hey, 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 it's Rebecca, and you're listening to Resilient by Design. Today I interview Elizabeth Cinquini. I think I said it right. She's the cutest last name. Who is this fabulous interior designer who has relocated her business and family from New York City to Florida. And honestly, she is such an inspiration. She is a POP alumni. She did Power of Process in 2022 in the spring, and she is just on fire. She does new construction, 6,000 square foot custom homes, and shares her experience moving from commercial what did she call it? It was like visual merchandising and store design for a global company in Manhattan, and shifting from that to running her own interior design business. She talks a lot about understanding your value, knowing your worth, and mindset. And I think this is such an inspirational episode. I'm inspired by her. She's just a peaceful energy. She did Power of Process, totally up-leveled an already very successful interior design business, and now takes on 2 to 3 projects a year and is just living her best life. So I hope you guys really enjoy this inspirational episode with Elizabeth. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Welcome to the podcast, Elizabeth. I'm so excited to have you here. I feel like you've been in my realm and my world now for a few years, and I'm so excited that now we get like one-on-one FaceTime.
Yes, me too. I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Why don't we start off, just let everyone know a little bit who you are and what you do.
Okay. My name is Elizabeth Cinquini. I own a company called Elizabeth Cinquini Interiors. I've been in the interior design world for about 20 years. Started my own company in 2015. Started in New York City, and just recently, 2 months ago, moved down to the west coast of Florida.
I love that. I love having been kind of like I don't know if it's a fly on the wall, but kind of in the background watching as you've made this transition. It's so freaking exciting. And I do want us to dive into that a little bit later on in the episode, because I think moving your business from one city to the next is a really interesting topic.
Yes, it certainly is.
We'll get there though. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
So you took Power of Process. When was it?
I think it was April.
April 2022.
Yeah.
April 2022. And you're already like implementing things that I can see, and you're on fire and your business is amazing. And so I really wanted to have you on the podcast just to talk a little bit about, and I'm actually personally just really interested in, first of all, like what's your background and what's your story? But then you kind of stumbled into like designer meetups a while ago. So I feel like I've been seeing your face. So first, let's just talk about like, who are you? Like, are you on your own? Do you have a family? What's your sitch?
Okay. So I'm married to my husband. We've been together. We're married about 18 years, but together, oh my God, like 25 years. I have 2 kids. My son is 14. He just started high school. And my daughter is 12. So she's in middle school, just started 7th grade.
I love your accent coming out. It's amazing. It's amazing because you were in. So you have like not older kids, but like middle school aged teenagers, really?
Yeah, like early teenagers. That's a whole nother.
That's a whole other thing. I'm not there yet. We'll talk about that one in a few years. I'll have you back. You can advise me. So how did you get into the design business? Have you always been on your own? Did you work for a designer? Did you go to school? Like, what's your background?
Okay. So I went to college for something totally different than interior design. Graduated, got my first job. I was working in New York City in Manhattan in magazine publishing. And after a year and a half, I was like, this isn't it. This is not for me. So I started taking design classes at Parsons School of Design at night and on weekends, and really kind of just figuring out. I knew I wanted to be a designer, but I wasn't really sure what type of designer. Realized real quickly fashion design wasn't it. And then I really kind of stumbled into visual merchandising and store design. So I got into more of the commercial aspect of it. I was working for a family owned global fashion brand, and they were doing a worldwide expansion. So it was like the timing of it was perfect. It was a very small team. I got hired as the assistant to the vice president of the company, and I spent the next couple of years really designing interior store spaces, window displays, how the merchandise is displayed, basically designing stores really all over the world. I got to travel a lot and really, I'm self-taught, learn from real life experience, which to me is 1,000 times more valuable than anything you can learn sitting in a classroom. My experience is really from actually doing and hands-on and working with contractors and architects and really learning my craft and curating my own style.
Wow. That's so cool. I had no idea. I totally love that. I can totally see that because you're so stylish. By the way, if you can't see Elizabeth right now, she's got these fabulous dangly earrings, this cute little thing in her hair, and she's all Florida now. I love it. So how then did you go from designing these stores all around the world to owning your own design business? What was that journey like?
Okay, so I was in the corporate design world for, I want to say, over 10 years, and it was great. I got so much experience. I traveled. I loved it. But then I started to get a little bit burnt out because I was commuting into Manhattan every day, an hour and a half each way. So that's 3 hours a day I was spending on a bus. And then it got to the point where I was really getting so efficient in my design style and how I wanted to run a business. And when you get caught in that rat race of the corporate world, I felt like a lot of my time was being wasted. And that's one thing that I realized from early on is in business, time is everything. So if I was wasting a couple hours a day because there was so many people involved and they, each person wanted to do something a different way. And I'm like, but wait, I can do this in much less time, be way more efficient and actually get it done correctly. But, we had to go through the channels. This person wants you to do it this way. And I just got to the point where I was like, you know what, I could be so much more efficient on my own. I could save myself 3 hours a day, not commuting to the city. I knew it was going to be hard, but it was at the end of the day, I knew that I always wanted to work for myself and build my own business. So I gave my notice and I left my job. I took a couple months off. My husband was like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, I'm going to start my own company. And a few months later, I did. I launched my own company, Elizabeth Cinquini Interiors, in 2015.
Oh my goodness. Did you have kids at the time too?
I had little kids. Yes, they were like toddlers. So my husband took a lot of the brunt of that at home because he was now in charge of, getting them ready and bathing them and dropping them at daycare. But he really stepped up. I mean, one thing, he really supports me in the fact that, even if it's scary, he would never tell me don't do it, because I always feel like I don't ever want to have that regret of what it could have been and what I could have done. So I think that's really important. If you have something that you want to do, no matter what the obstacles are, you really owe it to yourself to do everything you can to make it happen. Because if you're dedicated, you will be successful.
I agree with you. I love that. I love that you have that perspective and that support. I mean, I feel fortunate in that sense too, that my husband's like, okay, you want to start a podcast? Sure. Why not? Right. He's never resisted my crazy ideas, and not everyone is as fortunate. But that's wonderful to hear. I can't even imagine commuting to Manhattan. That is like a movie. And that is so not a reality I could even picture. So you started your own business, and then what was it like in those early years?
So it was hard. I mean, because I didn't really ever run my own company before. And my business really started from like word of mouth and referrals, family and friends. It was like, hey, I'm starting this business. But I wasn't like proven in that industry yet as far as residential because I had always worked in commercial. So it was really showcasing my own home and my own design style. And then slowly I started getting work. And then my first big client, I would say right when I launched my company, maybe 2 or 3 months in, they bought a house and they wanted to renovate the whole thing. So got the entire home. Yeah, my first clients, they were amazing. And we met and they took a chance on me. And that's really how it started. And custom renovations and homes really became my niche. Like, I love that.
Oh, wow. I mean, for designers who are listening, I'm sure a lot of people are like, what? Like, I've been doing this for like 2 decades and I still can't get into that niche. That
Yeah.
is amazing. So how do you think you fell into such a large scale type of project so early on in your business? Was it through connections
Yeah,
or?
it's really all about networking and people. You're only as good as your network, right? So keep talking to people. I'm very shy. I am introverted, so that's hard for me. But just meeting genuine people that want to see you succeed. I've always tried to help other people, whatever I'm doing. So what you get out, you get back. I'm a true believer in that. And the more people you meet, the more opportunities there are. So I always say, like, you may not have anything happening right now, but tomorrow you can meet one person that knows someone and your whole life can change. So don't ever get discouraged because that's truly how my life has been. I never know from one day to the next, but the connections that I make, will lead to other things. And they definitely will. It's just a matter of being consistent, putting in the time, and, really working towards those goals.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you say that because I think so many designers nowadays are so focused on Instagram,
Yeah.
social media, putting all their energies, and I know I've been guilty of this, putting all their energies into being online and feeling like they're not gaining traction. And I know this is something that I talk about a lot when I talk about marketing, the power of like old school lawn signs, networking with real estate agents. Like there is so much power in that. I think that is a really good message.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing these custom homes, full scale renovations.
Mhm.
Were you just like, this is easy, I know what I'm doing? Like, tell me a little bit more about that transformation and then how you came across me. So I feel like the first time I met you was I saw your beautiful face in a designer meetup, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, correct.
So sort of explain like how did you land on that and why were you even interested in joining in that community?
Okay. So I'll answer your first question. So when I first started doing the custom homes and renovations, I fell into it and I loved it and I was really good at it. So I wasn't nervous about it. And after working with contractors and all the different trades, I really realized the real value that I provide to the client and the service that I give them. So I'm their voice, right? They don't have the knowledge, they don't know, and they don't have the time. They're super busy running their own businesses, they have their own families. And all of the clients that I've worked with, they've actually told me, like, you've saved our marriage. If we were doing this renovation without you, like, it would be impossible. And there's a lot of value in that because when you're doing a project like that, it takes a lot of time. You're working with them for a year, well, now longer with all these delays, but it's really about creating relationships with the clients. I get to know them and their family really well. How do they need their home to function? And I give them that aspect of design that a contractor will never give them, an architect will never give them. And I walk them through the entire process. So I take the stress off of them, which is huge.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think I mean, you obviously have always seen your value. Not all designers recognize that, as I know you know, and you've seen inside our community, right?
Yeah,
So it sounds like you had your shit together, pardon my French.
I did a
So,
little.
why did you join designer meetups? Like, what prompted you to look into POP?
Okay, so I found you on Instagram. That's how I first came across you. But I had never really had much interaction with other interior designers before. I was kind of running my own business the way I thought I should run it. But everything else was just guesswork. Like I was learning as I was doing it. So I felt like I gravitated toward you because I felt like you were honest and down to earth and real, kind of like I am. I feel like a lot of interior designers, especially in New York City, kind of have that stigma, like that, they're kind of a little bit obnoxious or just untouchable. I felt like it's a very different industry there. And I always tell my clients, like, I'm like the anti-interior designer. I am not like that at all. I'm very easy to work with. I'm very collaborative with my clients and especially my trades. I show everyone respect on the job and I really work with the trades and the contractors to, get their input and have it be collaborative. And I feel like the trades that I've worked with have told me they don't like working with designers because they're not that way. They don't show up. They just, think who they are. And I'm the total opposite of that. So I feel like that's where I'm different. And I really built my value being more of an easygoing, down to earth person because, we know to build anything successful, you need collaboration. It's really not about competition. Yeah. So I want to have great relationships with all of my trades. I mean, they're the ones that are actually executing and building my design.
So then were you drawn to that idea that you wanted to collaborate in the sense of knowledge share with other designers? Is that what like, because I remember we used to do designer meetup Zoom calls once a month, as soon as the pandemic hit. And then that was not sustainable for me. So then we would sort of do them every quarter. Is that what drew you into those meetings? Like, tell me about what you gained from that community.
Yeah, I mean, I loved your community because I felt like it was a bunch of designers at all different skill levels, really just bouncing ideas and knowledge off of each other and knowing like that, every designer kind of goes through the same thing with clients and pricing and being unsure and doubting your value. Sometimes we all go through it, and just being in a community of other people that are going through the same thing and obviously getting your input. I just love your delivery and how real you are, that you don't hold things back. There's not a facade there, and you're just real and honest. And the way you really want to help other people is truly what draw me into, your community and POP.
Oh, well, that's very sweet. Thank you for saying that. That makes me feel very proud because that is something that is important to me. And I've always really tried to just be myself. And it took a little while to get there. As you know, sometimes it's hard for us to step out of the shell that is who everyone else thinks we should be, right? And just say, let's just talk about things honestly and openly. And I love helping. So I'm so glad that comes through. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So then, because you were in our designer meetup group for like a couple of years, I want to say, maybe not a couple, maybe a year before you signed up for Power of Process. So what was it? Like, what was going on in your life that called you to commit to signing up for this program, doing the work, and really, like, what was it? Were you experiencing any challenges in your business at the time, or what was it that prompted you to sign up for the course?
Yeah, so at that time, probably 2020 and 2021, my business really exploded kind of like after, towards the end of 2020 in the pandemic. And I was super busy. I had a lot of clients. I had a lot of projects that I was taking on. And it was great, but I felt like it was a little chaotic. I had a lot of different clients and I was like, there has to be a way to streamline this. And that's really where POP came in for me because yes, I was super busy and super booked, but I knew that to really evolve my business, I had to hone in on targeting specific clients, taking on specific projects to be able to really grow. And I didn't know how to really do that on my own. I mean, I had a process, but it was all in my head. I didn't have anything written down. So when I took POP, it really forced me to sit down and figure out who's the client, what's the avatar? What do they like? Where are they? It forced me to sit down and do the work, which I never probably would have done otherwise because I was so busy like working on my business. Working in my business. So I needed to work on my business. So I guess that's really where the value was for me with POP.
I think that's really interesting that you say that because, I mean, I don't know that if it's rare or not. I haven't interviewed enough POP alumni in this sense, in this way to know. But when you're super busy like that and you have so many projects lined up, to say, oh, I need to step back for a second and work on my business. Like, how many people actually do that? Most people are like, okay, once I get through this and then next year, and then they kind of put it off in the future. I love that you had the savvy to say, no, if I'm going to successfully execute all these incredible projects, I need to get my stuff together and really tighten up this business model. Was it hard to carve out the time to do that?
It was impossible because I was also, I was selling my house in New York. I was packing up my house and moving. I was building a new house in another state and launching a new business. So the timing could not have been worse, but more perfect at the same time because it forced me to do it because I knew when I launched my new business in Florida, I wanted to launch it with all these processes in place, all my worksheets, all my media kit, all my visuals, my marketing. I would have had that all in place. And then also really hone in on my pricing model, as well as who the clients are going to be, because I didn't want to repeat last year where I was kind of in chaos with all these clients. I wanted to take on less clients, but bigger projects. So for me, it was crucial to take POP to get to that point. And now I'm like very peaceful. I know exactly where I'm going and I know the client that I'm looking for, and I'm not going to settle and just take jobs just to be busy because I know that client will come. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. Whew. I just got goosebumps. There's like so much there. First of all, I'm so excited for you. It's amazing. I've loved watching you. I don't remember which call you were in, one of our like those study hall Zoom sessions, and you were like, oh, like I'm just moving my entire life and business to another state. And we were like, whoa, wow, awesome. And I'm like, oh, Naples is amazing because my mom used to have a condo there and I like grew up there on like not Halloween. Why would I say Halloween? That is the weirdest thing to say, Rebecca. Like New Year's and like spring break and stuff like that. And it's such a beautiful town. And there's so much money there too. But I love that you were like in the course, you're like, your whole life was like upheaval and change. And you showed up every week and you did the work. But what I really love is how you just said peaceful. Like that word peaceful. How many designers can say that their life feels peaceful? I know that when I was early on in my journey, it was freaking stress bombs. It was chaos. It was anxiety attacks in the middle of the night. Like it was not peaceful. I love that I've never heard someone use that word. It's just such a beautiful word to describe a state of being. And I love that that's been your journey. I want to talk. I'm going to go a little bit off the planned conversations because I do want to talk about money. Because you, and I'll let you share in your own words, but you sent me a private note at some point this past year where you expressed how much more money you are quoting and charging for projects since you did POP. Do you want to speak a little bit to that transformation and you know, what was it like? What types of projects, or you don't have to necessarily say the dollars if you're not comfortable, but you know, what is the difference between what you were charging for your services before, what changed, and what does it look like now?
Okay. So yeah, I mean, when I started, I was starting out, so I wasn't charging that much. I was charging hourly, and I knew I didn't want to charge hourly. I wanted to do fixed fees because for me, that just works better. I want clients to know what they're paying. I don't want to have to keep track of hours. And at the end of the day, I work really quickly and efficiently, and my value is not based on my time. right? My value is based on 20 years of this amazing experience that I have. So for me, the hourly rate didn't work. And I just feel like, certain designers, you should not charge your worth based on an hour because, if I can do something amazing in 10 minutes, I shouldn't be penalized for that, right? So
is that how you were charging before? Like when you were back in New
when
York?
I first started, that first job, that renovation that I did, I was charging hourly. And then I realized after that, I didn't want to do that anymore. So, but I didn't really know like what other people were charging. I really had no basis. So I was kind of winging it in the beginning. And then as I grew and my expertise grew and my, referral base grew and my business started to expand, it was a matter of like, what are the right increases to make, right? Because you can't charge what you were charging in the beginning. It doesn't work that way. And with every home that you do and the better that you get, your value increases. So for me, it was just, I guess what you did for me is really like hone in on the fact that you're valuable and however much you think you're worth is what you should be charging. And so that's why for me, like now when I price jobs, I use the price per square foot model that you taught us. But I also do it based on the overall project and how long it will take. But like this most recent job that I quoted, it's a full home renovation. It's in New York. It's pretty large. It's about 6,000 square feet. And the way I would price it before, I knew that I would have undervalued what I was worth and what the job actually entailed. So when I used the new pricing model and I sent the price to my client, who I have worked with him before, he looked at it and he got back to me within a day and he said, this seems pretty on par with what it should be. And so that really validated that I was undercharging.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, wow. I've had a similar experience where I'm like, this number seems really big, but I'm going to do it because I do think, and I've done the calculations. I know what it's going to take for us to do the job. Mm-hmm. And you send it out into the ether, right?
Yeah.
And the client's like, okay. You're like, what? All this time I've been charging less than half that?
Yeah.
And these clients would have paid so much more money. Like, what a crazy experience. And you are like, I'm worth a lot of money. But okay, hold on. That client you said was a client in the past.
Yeah.
So was there a disconnect? Like, were you nervous to give this repeat client a completely different number and different pricing structure? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was nervous about it. But at the end of the day, this was going to be my third project with them. So I knew that they knew the value and they were my ideal client, right? They're super busy professionals. They have a family. And so they understand the value and what I've taken off their plate. I'm giving them their time back, saving them all of the stress and aggravation that they would, normally go through in a process like this. So I knew the value. And at the end of the day, I had to, at some point, you have to just be true to who you are and what you believe. So now, listen, I have sent probably 2 or 3 proposals out to people in the last month. One of them I never heard from. and that will happen. You see, they may be scared by the dollar amount. But what I say to myself is, that's not the right client for me.
And you know what, Elizabeth? When that doesn't happen is when you're not charging enough.
Right.
If you are getting every project that you propose, set a proposal out or that you quote, you're not charging enough. And I know that seems weird to think. It's like, but that doesn't make sense. It's a no-brainer. Yep, everyone's hiring you. Then you're going to be run down, too busy, too many projects that are not profitable. Good for you.
And
it's a scary place to be, though.
Yeah. That's the way I was last year. I was doing 1 million projects. I was definitely undercharging. People were driving me crazy because some of them were not the right client. And I was just like, I'm not doing this again. So I really want to hone in on that right client, and not compromise those values that I have anymore. I know my worth and I know what I provide and the value, and that's it. And that's how my business is going to grow and be peaceful. And I can be peaceful at the same time.
I love it. That's so good.
Because I'm
It's
not
so
letting
good.
anyone take away my peace anymore. That's just not going to happen.
Look at you, girl. You are just such a role model, I have to say, for other designers, for creative entrepreneurs, because you really have stepped into your value. You are standing your ground. And I know that it's scary when you put out a proposal and you're like, it might be too much. And then the client ghosts you, like what has happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that as our prices increase, we get more of that. Yeah. So it's like, because now, and for a while I was like, oh, is that just a disconnect? Am I not showcasing enough of our talent that the wrong people are coming to me? And it's like, no, the most successful people say no more than they say yes. Right. So like you're going to get more no's, than you're going to get yeses. Right. And I spoke to a colleague of mine in Toronto who's very, very successful, does very high-end projects. And she said when they first started to up level and charge more money, it was really scary because you're not getting all yeses anymore. But then all you need are just a few.
Right, exactly. And that's what I say. I just need 2 or 3. I don't need 20 anymore.
Amazing. Yeah. And how much more fun is it to just go all in on 2 or 3 projects? I mean, no wonder you feel peaceful, lady. That's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's 100 times better. So that's where I'm headed. That's what I'm doing. And I'd rather do full home renovations. This way there's consistency too. Because I used to take jobs where I would do like a kitchen or a bathroom. But at the end of the day, I want to showcase the whole home. Like, I'm creating an environment, right? So if I'm just doing one room and then you turn over and this room is a total disconnect, it's not really representative of my work and my values. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now tell me, if you had not enrolled in Power of Process and made this move to Naples, how would it be different?
I probably would be in a little bit of chaos, and I probably would be not as peaceful because I'd be worried about pricing and getting jobs and projects and clients. Instead of now, I feel like the energy that I put out there, I let them come to me, and I don't have to work so hard to force it because I know what I'm looking for. So with this move, what I'm doing now is really spending most of my time networking, meeting new people, right? Because like I said before, every contact you make, you don't know, that could be the game changer. So I'm very involved down here now with women entrepreneurial groups, networking groups, just meeting as many people as I can, other business owners, introducing myself, which is a little uncomfortable for me, but I force myself to do it because this is where I'm creating my new home and I'm going to be here for a long time and I want to fully immerse myself in this community. And so I know it was a total game changer for me. It gave me the confidence to really, build my business the way I want to build it. And I love being a part of, your community. And I really appreciate everything that you've done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is so wonderful. I'm so happy. I love hearing this. And I just can't wait to see and watch as you grow your company and the projects that you do and you settle into your new home. Before we end the podcast, I think it's important just to address that. Picking up and moving, not only to another town or city, but to an entirely different state. Do you have any tips? And this might be really a whole other podcast. I've done one other podcast with Catherine, who did POP, who also moved across the country in Canada, and how she started again. And she said something similar, and she said that it gave her an opportunity to sort of reinvent her business, and that she was able to start from scratch in a way and do different types of project and rebrand and all of that. What has been your experience? moving your business? I know the family side, we don't have time to get into all of that, but what has been your experience moving from one city to a new city? It sounds like you know exactly what to do. I love it. But in your words, like, what's it been like?
It's been great. I mean, there really has not been anything bad about it. I mean, yes, it's a lot of work and there's a lot of, things you have to do to start over. But I look at it as a huge opportunity because I just felt like after being in New York for 20 years, I kind of like reached my limit, right? I kind of felt like the longer I stayed there, it was holding me back. And I knew that I needed to leave, start over to really be able to scale and build the business to be, really successful and as big as I want it to be. And I knew that I had to move to do that 100%. So I would tell anybody, to take the leap. Don't be scared, because amazing things will come from it. If you're disciplined and you're motivated enough to want to do it and make it work, it will. Yeah, it's all what you put out there. If you're positive and you know it, but like, I don't know what tomorrow's going to be. I don't know what those, amazing projects will be yet, but they will be coming. I know that 1000%. I
love that. It's all in your mind. It's all about mindset, having the right attitude. Mm-hmm. I love it. For sure. Oh my gosh, you've been such an incredible guest. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. But before we wrap, do you have a last nugget of wisdom that you can share with our listeners today?
Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you for having me. But I would say the most important thing, what really transformed my life, is really your mindset. You can manifest anything that you want. You really have to believe it and you have to put it out into the universe and you will get it if you are disciplined and work to do it. So you can manifest anything.
I really love that. I subscribe to that as well, but I like that you threw in that twist. Not a twist, but I think it's an important distinction. You talked about having discipline. And I think that's really important because it's not just, I'm thinking positive all the time and good things are going to happen. You do have to also put in the work. Like you're saying, you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. You're going to networking events. I've seen you like on Instagram. I've seen you're attending this women's founder, whatever. You're doing those things that maybe don't feel natural or comfortable to you, but you know it's going to help you move forward. And I think that that's a really important distinction, to have that right mindset, but to also recognize you need that discipline to continue to like keep going. The success will come.
Yeah, most people, they give up. That's really the problem. They do it a couple times, whatever it is, and they don't see the immediate result, and then they kind of pull back, and that's where the problems are. You got to keep pushing because it may not happen today or tomorrow, but after a couple weeks, months, whatever it is, it can be 100 times better than you ever thought it could be. But you have to believe in it.
I love it. Oh my gosh, girl. You're like the poster child for just everything. Everything. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Can you let everybody listening here know where they can find you if they want to follow your adventures?
Yes. Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth Cinquini. I post all my projects. I'm going to be building my own home from scratch, so you can follow that journey. Or my website, www.elizabethcinquini.com. And you can watch some videos about me and see some portfolio of all of our projects.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
How lovely and peaceful is Elizabeth. Oh, I loved having that chat with her and just seeing her energy. And if you're listening to the podcast, you didn't get to see her lovely aura and her face. And she's just so... she just has such a relaxed vibe and yet very focused, very driven. Clearly, for someone who's in the height of her business, busy business, to say, wait, I need to fix this. I need to make this better so that I can serve these clients and really up-level my game. I think that's truly inspirational. How many of us don't think about investing in business improvement or self-improvement until we're at the bottom or things are slow. So if you're listening to this and you feel like that spoke to you because your business is booming and you can see the future, but you need to get more clarity and you know you want to up level, I highly recommend you consider Power of Process. Whenever you're listening to this episode, whether it's available now or you can join the waitlist, come join our community of beautifully inspiring women like Elizabeth and watch how things can truly be transformed. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will talk to you soon.